up, you creep. Get away from me.
All right, that's Annie Frey in the studio. Actually, that was Hillary Clinton, but Annie
Let's not
Frey
confuse
is in the studio.
It's a very, very significant difference. Even though we both are women, so obviously we think the same.
You do have that in common.
Yeah.
And your husband told you who to vote for. You have that in common.
My husband tells me a lot of things.
Doesn't mean you listen. I know where you were going with that.
I didn't say that.
Just in case Jared's listening, right?
I love my husband. Yes.
Yeah,
We have
of
a
course you
very good, strong relationship.
I'm glad to hear that.
We are both independent thinkers. And he knew that before he put a ring on it.
You've told me about some of those family gatherings. It must be interesting.
Yeah.
Not to get you in trouble.
No.
I digress. Hey, you had a lot of fun the other day. You got to speak to a group of in Illinois yesterday.
Madison County Republicans Lincoln Day dinner last night. It was in Highland, Illinois. I got to give the little speech thing there at the end, and it was great. And the thing that was the best about this event last night, there was quite a few people there, a lot of people who are running for office in 2018, including two that I'll tell you about in a second. But there was a Young Republicans group from Edwardsville High School that was over there.
It's a good sign.
They have 74 members, and they had to fight to get their organization started. They have 74 members, and there were like 2 full tables of them there last night. Young Republicans from our college GOP folks from SIUE were there, and they had quite a presence. I was so encouraged by the youth that were there, and they were kind of excited to see somebody who might be a little closer to their age
talking
speaking. But it was really exciting. The future of this party, this thing that we are trying to uphold, conservatism, is bright. And
yes.
and I saw it last night in Highland.
They got an interesting congressional race over there, right?
Yes. So Bost for the U.S. House seat, he's going to be challenged. Rodney Davis will face a challenge. They will both need the support of Republicans on the Illinois side. As far as the state House goes, which for me, being an Illinois resident, is where I care a lot more, because if J.B. Pritzker wins the governor race, which I'm telling you right now is very, very likely to happen. I don't know who's going to show up and support Governor Rauner. I'm still deciding if I can show up and support Governor Rauner. But we need to cripple Mike Madigan's power in the House, and we're 9 seats away from taking away his speakership from him, so that the Democrats aren't forced to make a decision, which they always tell us going into the election, we're going to support somebody else, and it never happens. And so we have in the 112th district, which is mine, which is the Edwardsville area, is Dwight Kay. He's working to get a seat back from Katie Stewart. Katie Stewart hasn't done anything egregious with the 112th, but she is a placeholder for Mike Madigan. She won with Mike Madigan's money, and she votes the way she's told, and she represents the Madigan machine in the 112th district instead of the taxpayers. And in the 111th, we have Mike Babcock, who's running against a Democratic appointee from somebody who retired. So there's 2 seats just right across the river. Mike Babcock is out of Wood River. Dwight Kay is out of the Edwardsville, Glen Carbon area, Collinsville, and just 2 really strong candidates. I know them both personally, and they could do a lot to get us back on track with having some honest fiscal responsibility in Illinois. I know that's hard to put all those same words in one sentence. But
honest fiscal and responsibility in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's you don't hear that very frequently, but it is important to talk about.
So enlighten us. Did you use my joke that I gave you for your speech yesterday?
I can't tell your jokes like you tell
on.
jokes. I would get halfway through and then I would botch it, and no.
I told her she should just stand up and say, did you hear the one about the Democrat that supported your Second Amendment rights? Neither have I, right? Come on.
No joke.
That'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, especially in Illinois. That they're having a confiscation of guns, and I can't remember the Deerfield.
Oh, Deerfield. Yeah, we had the guy on Monday from the Illinois State Rifle Association who's filed suit against them.
Yeah.
These people are crazy.
It's a shocking thing to behold as an Illinois resident. And last night at this event, when you've got, I don't know how many people were there, 100, 150 people, these are people who are very passionate about saving the state of Illinois, but it's real easy to leave. It's real. I mean, I know that it might be heartbreaking for a minute, and then you go look on realtor.com or whatever, get a hold of any of the realtors we have on this station. They'll help set you up. You compare the taxes that you're going to pay on a similar home, you could afford a lot nicer home in Missouri. And people have done that. People are continuing to do that.
Last week, I read a article from a group in the Chicago suburbs, and it was actually complaining about the fact that they were starting to lose population.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't complaining about it from the standpoint that it was their fault. They're so unaware of the reasons why. I guess maybe what they're used to in the suburbs around Chicago is that, young people move in, they want to live in Chicago, they live there for a while, they become more affluent, and they move out to the suburbs. And what's happening, obviously, is they're making more money. They're realizing how much of it is going to the government and how poorly run it is. And then they look to buy a house in the suburbs and they realize how much more they'll have to pay in property tax if they do that. And they're just choosing to leave the state.
Yeah. And Chicago has a border right there with Indiana. Wisconsin has a large PR campaign working specifically millennials, people who are my age and a little bit younger, saying, hey, come over here. And they get to see the freedom that exists right across the border. You can still associate with Chicago. You can still be in Chicago. At the drop of a hat, you just get in the car and you go, and you can still partake in that type of lifestyle if you want to. But you're really close. It's just like St. Louis here. And there are so many people who live a dual state life, like myself, working in Missouri, living in Illinois, that it is in some cases simpler to come over to Missouri and live over here if you don't have the deep-rooted, or deep roots over in the state of Illinois. I have a family farm. My husband has a family farm. All of our family exists over there. That's not portable. We're not all going to move at the same time.
Right.
So you want to say that it's something that is worth fighting for, and it truly is. But this election coming up is huge. If we hand J.B. Pritzker a Mike Madigan-controlled House, we won't survive.
Well, it's the same problem you get into with Hillary Clinton. A lot of people that voted for Hillary, in my opinion, voted for her because they needed the government giveaway train to continue. Now, little did we know that under Paul Ryan's stewardship in the House, it would continue anyway, no matter who was president, because that's what we saw in the omnibus. But J.B. Pritzker's a populist, and he's walking around the state saying, look, I'm a rich guy, but I get it. We're going to have a progressive tax, and we're going to give everybody free health care so you can stay in your home when you get old. I mean, he's promising the farm to people who are going to vote their wallet and think they're going to get something free out of it. I don't know how Rauner compensates. I don't know how he compensates for it, because he's lost a lot of people who were his base, who were conservatives, who thought it would be really great to get a businessman up there who would do something different, and he didn't.
Eric Zorn wrote a really good editorial in the Chicago Tribune, and I think I'm going to have him on Saturday. And he makes the case of this conundrum that Republicans in Illinois currently have. What do you do? Because as somebody who is a Jeannie Ives supporter myself, it really is disgusting to see how Rauner won that election. He lied about her, and it was just enough. Less than 20,000 votes, less than 3%. He's the incumbent Republican governor. You would think that it would be easy to coalesce around a Republican that can win in Illinois.
Right.
But he has no leg to stand on. And the only reason why you end up voting Rauner at this point in time, for me personally, is because I'm afraid of J.B. Pritzker. And in my opinion, there are a lot of people who voted for Trump that way because they were afraid of Hillary Clinton. There are a lot of people who voted for Hillary Clinton that way because they were afraid of Donald Trump. And it's not a good way to carry out an election. You don't get people to show up in the polls that way either. So, I mean, I don't know. People call my show and say, what do we do, Annie? And I say, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. And we don't have to know right now. It's actually Rauner's responsibility.
Oh, it's true.
To tell us why to vote for him.
That's a good point. Let me switch gears here for a minute. Did you watch any of Mark Zuckerberg's testimony yesterday? I know you were a little distracted getting ready for your speech last night.
Yes, I saw some replays, and I saw Ted Cruz's grilling of him, and I just wanted to watch it over and over and over again.
Well, right. So we're going to go to cut number 16 here. Listen to Zuckerberg. Ben Sass, the senator, I think is from Arkansas, asked him to define the word hate speech. Listen.
You may decide, or Facebook may decide, it needs to police a whole bunch of speech that I think America might be better off not having policed by one company that has a really big and powerful platform. Can you define hate speech?
Senator, I think that this is a really hard question, and I think it's one of the reasons why we struggle with it. There are certain definitions that we have around calling for violence or
let's just agree on that. If somebody's calling for violence, that shouldn't be there. I'm worried about the psychological categories around speech. You used language of safety and protection earlier. We see this happening on college campuses all across the country. It's dangerous. 40% of Americans under age 35 tell pollsters they think the First Amendment is dangerous because you might use your freedom to say something that hurts somebody else's feelings. Guess what? There are some really passionately held views about the abortion issue on this panel today. Can you imagine a world where you might decide that pro-lifers are prohibited from speaking about their abortion views on your content, on your platform?
I certainly would not want that to be the case.
But it might really be unsettling to people who've had an abortion to have an open debate about that, wouldn't it?
It might be, but I don't think that would fit any of the definitions of what we have.
Yeah. So in other words, we get to decide.
It's
Let
elitism.
me boil that down for you.
It's absolute elitism. And the crazy thing that has come out of the left and this elitist mentality is it seems to be like the leftists who have the money get to be the elite, which is so anti-progressive, anti-liberal. Like they used to be the party of the everyman, the working man. And really, conservatives are that party now. We're the ones who are fighting for equal opportunity and not forcing equal outcome, which is a non-starter to begin with. And Mark Zuckerberg is in over his head. He's largely successful in what he's created, but it went to his head, and he thinks that he can do better, know better for all those little folks out there who have Facebook profiles on his platform. And the truth is he isn't. He isn't better than any of us. He's been successful. I respect his success. I don't wish him a lack of success. But this elitist mentality is a toxic thing that has crept into our culture. It's destructive, and it's kind of in the shadows. And it's a dark thing that unless we bring it out into the forefront like they're doing with him there, it's a very frightening thing to behold.
I loved that my caller Dominic brought this up earlier, and who gets to decide? I mean, his argument that seemed to suggest there needs to be some sort of regulation because most of the people that run these social media companies are leftists, right? Zuckerberg defended the fact that they had that attitude because of where they were in Silicon Valley. Yeah. That's where they're headquartered. So it's okay that we're like this, right? But who gets targeted? So on Twitter recently, we've been getting a lot of nasty comments. And one of the comments suggested basically that it hoped everybody here would die, right? So I reported it to Twitter as you should look into this because here's an individual wishing people would die. Got a comment back from Twitter. Had no problem with it. Twitter had no problem with it. I wonder if it was somebody from this radio station that did that, what the reaction would have been. I'm guessing it would have been different. They're different standards. Yeah.
I do think that the people who control the back end of these platforms that are very powerful platforms, it's creating an environment where it is not to your advantage to speak out.
No.
About anything.
Right. That's a good point. Very good point. Annie Frey, thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure having you on. You can listen to Annie every Saturday from 5 to 7 right here on FM News Talk 97.1, The Annie Frey Show. Awesome. Quick break. 3-1.